Welcome back to another episode of Let's Stay In.
I'm Anna, and this is Mark.
Now, before we get into today's episode, we got to give you that annoying reminder. Make sure you like, subscribe, download, comment. If there's a button, make sure you click it. Somehow, I think that helps us out.
With that being said, let's just jump right in.
How we all doing today? How we doing?
Amazing.
Better now.
Got some NZ, Sabi B.
Yeah, you're almost done with your glass of wine.
You keep saying that as if maybe it was a small pour.
Oh, was it a small pour? That's Anna's fault.
That's what we're going with.
I went with restaurant pour because I've heard that I do a heavy pour.
Okay.
And
That's
it gets
what
warm
happened.
by the time they get to the bottom.
Okay, fair. All right, so
In my defense.
So Lisa, we ask everybody to give like a 30-second elevator pitch. So here's what I want you to do. Pretend you are at the beach. You're laying out. You got your glass of wine. You're reading a book. Somebody comes up to you. They're like, "Hey, I just got to know, who are you? What's your story? What's give me the 30-second elevator pitch."
I don't think I like that circumstance because that sounds really annoying.
First
and
of all,
creepy.
I would never talk to them.
I didn't say it was a man.
Someone
what if it was?
if
I would never talk to them.
If someone came up to me and I was alone on the beach, I'd be like,
Bye.
I don't need you to know anything about me. You're scaring me.
Let's say they came over, they noticed the book you're reading. They're like, "Oh, I just finished that book. It's a
Still.
great." Okay, all right,
So
fine.
when my clients ask me about myself, what I tell them is, my name is Lisa. I'm 50 years old. I'm from Boston, moved to LA with my now ex-husband in 05, 06. No, I don't even remember. It's a blur. Divorced by 07.
Ooh. Okay.
That's what happens. And had stayed and loved it. I was in fashion for 10 years and then all of a sudden realized I was living in LA, and I was a hairstylist before I moved here for 10 years and realized how stupid it was for me not to be in beauty. So I jumped back in a few years ago before COVID actually, and never looked back.
And what are you doing now?
Doing brow lamination and lash lifts. I was looking for a treatment that still worked with hair, because that's what I know, the science behind hair and chemicals. And these two things were just about to pop off when I decided to go into it. So
Where's your studio located?
I'm in Westwood.
Okay, so you're just
It's
lots
amazing.
of clients. Yeah, that's amazing.
It's amazing.
Very central.
There we go. So, okay, so one of the things when we first started chatting, I was like, okay, I got a theory for you that I got to run past you, and I asked you the question, and then I said, but I don't want you to elaborate. And so my question for you is, every divorced person, I ask every single one of them this question of when you guys were just dating, before you guys were engaged, before you guys were married, was there some sign that like things weren't going to work out long term? For you, was there a sign?
I mean, I was a toddler when I got engaged. So
How old were you?
24?
Oh, you were young.
23? Like, should not be allowed.
That's like normal though. People are doing that.
And I'm from Massachusetts, so like I was right on pace with everyone else. But now looking back, like why would you let a 20-something-year-old choose their partner for the rest of their life? I'm a different person now. I was a different person at 30. Never mind now. And to look back, he couldn't have been more of a wrong fit.
Yeah.
But I fell under. He was really sweet. My parents are Italian immigrants, and he's a Greek immigrant, and we got each other. And he was a professional athlete, and I was like, oh, I'm out of Massachusetts. Great. So we had 10 years of like, I got to do amazing things, like things that I would never have experienced. So while he was playing, it was awesome. And then when he retired and we were here 1 year, that's when it fell apart.
Why?
And they tell you, like, that's a thing. It's a statistic with athletes is the year after you retire, statistically, the divorce rate goes up to like 70% because all he's ever known is soccer. So he was born, like, he never had a job other than soccer. So you retire, and now who are you?
His identity crisis sets in.
But then you as the wife, partner, girlfriend, I got my life back. I had already, before we even moved here, I had a job set up. I had friends. I got my life back. I was so happy, and he was so sad. And he couldn't support me the way I had supported him for 10 years. He couldn't do for me what I did for him. And the only thing you can do is part ways.
I feel like athletes are very like main character. And if the light isn't on them, they don't know how to function.
Even the nicest ones. He's like the sweetest human I've had ever met. But still, like, I just realized that once that was taken away, what was there for us?
Was there slow pickings at your identity? Like, Did he try to bring you down a little bit so that he felt like you're on the same playing field?
He's like I just think we both kind of fell into traditional. We both came from immigrant families, very traditional. So for me, even though I'm hyper independent and very like goal focused and career focused, when I meet this man, I was like, this is what you do. This is what you do. Yeah. So I just fell into I'm the supportive wife. So I sit back, and if that means I have to move with him every 6 months, I'm doing that. I was so depressed, so bored, so miserable. And he gets a team of people like-minded, just like him. Anywhere we moved, he immediately had this life, and he was so happy. And I'm just sitting at home like a puppy waiting for someone to come home and pay attention to me. And like you know, people will say like, oh, you could have gotten a job. I was like, how? I'm there for 6 months. I'm there for 6 months. And then it's the off season. And then we're here. And then it was but in it, I was just like, this is what you do. And now looking back, I'm like, oh, the audacity.
Mm-hmm. Things are changing now. I feel like that was very much ingrained in our minds. Like I know I look back on my relationships, even high school, early college, things like that. I was very much like a 40s housewife.
Yes.
I immediately stepped into Stepford wife mode. Yes. I was like, okay, I'm going to treat him like a husband upon first date.
Yes.
We are going to have 3 kids. They're all going to be boys. They're going to play football. Like, obviously, I had a very like Friday Night Lights picture in my head of what my life was going to look like.
Crazy.
And then all of a sudden I started aging, and I was like, wait, I don't like kids that much.
And I want to do something.
I want to do something with my life. I think I care about my career more than planning my wedding. Yes. And there's nothing wrong with that. But it's been an interesting like pivot in what the priorities are for women recently.
The fact that we're allowed to say it out loud and be okay with it. Because I still feel like there's a little bit of like, people are like, oh, you'll find him. And I'm like, find who? I was like, what if I don't, I'm okay. Mm-hmm. But there's that like, oh, it's sad. I was like, is it? I'm like, because I'm low-key sad for you guys.
That think that their self-worth is tied up in having a relationship.
And when I'm at like a party or a wedding, whatever, with everyone, and I'm like, you guys all hate each other, and I get to go home in peace.
You're going to fight back in the hotel room, and I get to go have room service and watch a movie.
It's so nice. So it's like, but that shifted, and that took a long time. Because for me, for the longest time, I was like, oh, I don't want to be the single one. And now I'm like, I don't care. Like, if it's not exactly what I'm looking for, I'm not doing it.
Well, and I think part of it is that people have the wrong idea in mind. They go, okay, I need to find my person, right? I need to get married. I'm 30 some years old. I should be married by now, right? And I'm always thinking to myself, I'm like, the goal is not to get married. The goal is, if you do get married, your goal is to end like in a happy marriage with that person, to grow old with that person, to create a team with that person, to create a great family with that person, and to, when you are 90 years old, they are laying next to you and you've created this beautiful, amazing life that you can look back on and be happy. Getting married does not mean that you're automatically going to get to that point. I mean, the divorce rate in the country right now is like 55%.
And it will be.
Right. And then you got to add in another probably 30% of those people that are still married that are unhappy and probably should be divorced, right? So the way I look at it is like, our expectations, or like what we're striving for, is the wrong thing. We're striving for marriage when we should be striving for
100%.
an incredible marriage, and not just a marriage, but we way too short-sighted with it.
But I'm guilty of that. Like, when I met my husband, I was like, oh, this is it. This is what I do next. We never had conversations about what our future looked like. Like, there are so many things we should have talked about. And the man leads is what I thought. But I was like, you're leading me into a shithole. Like, that's not where I want to go. You're leading me into a place where I'm your wife, I'm your supporter, I'm your biggest fan. What about me? But I didn't have that conversation.
What are some conversations that you wish you had had with him prior to getting engaged or married?
One conversation I did have, and this one will like burn me forever. Before we got married, I was like, listen, I want a family. I'm not looking to be a parent by myself. So I want us to have a family together, which means I don't want to have babies with you until you retire, because I'm not going to be a single parent. I go, I'm also not going to be a stay-at-home mom. 100%, we will have babies. I will have a career, because I'm giving this all up for you. When that time comes, it's also going to be everything else. And he was like, totally get it. And then when it came time, he's like, I just always thought you would change your mind. And 10 years later, to hear those words, and it actually probably in the last 2 years, I found an old email where that conversation had taken place. And it took up until now for me to be like, oh my God, that's horrible. Because even back then, with the first time I read it, when we got divorced, I was not fazed by him being like, I just always thought you'd change your mind. Now I'm like, okay, wait. So I said to you with my words that this is what I want. And you were like, yeah, great. I believed everything you said, and I didn't think you were going to change your mind. Why would you assume I would?
Because you're a woman. You're going to do what he wants at the end of the day.
That's exactly. And so I realized I did have, those are the two key things for me, that I want to work and I want a family. I'm not going to be a stay-at-home mom. And those were the few. But I also think I have younger friends now, and I'm so like blown away by the way they walk into a relationship where they're having these big conversations of like, where do you see yourself financially? Where do you see yourself wanting to live? Does this match up with what I want? Like, let's not go there before we make sure we're on the same page. And I never would have thought to have those conversations ever. Because it was just, they're like, get married, find a husband. Oh, good, you found one. Figure it out. Which is wild.
It is wild.
But again, that was a long time ago. I was 26 when I got married. I'm 50. Like, that was a long time ago.
Okay, so I'm curious. So at 50, what are the important things that you wish you had known at 25, 26? In life, not even relationships. I mean, thematically speaking, the big things you wish you could tell yourself.
So I wish, again, I think it's wild to get married that young. I get it. For some people, it works. And for some people, whatever, where you're from, I think it's crazy to tie yourself to another person in your 20s when you're still growing and learning who you are. I think it's so important that I wish no one ever pushed me to pursue a career, ever. Not my guidance counselor, not my parents. No one ever said to me, like, what do you want to do? Like, okay, but great, you're going to get married, but what about you? And also to think that we're always so like, oh, you're going to find a guy and he'll take care of you. And I'm like, but then what? What if the guy dies? What if I hate him? What if he goes away? Then what? I'm like, do for you. Like, you can still find your person and fall in love in your 20s, but don't forget who you are and to pursue what you want. Because at some point, you're going to be with this person for 10, 15, 20 years, kids, no kids, whatever it is. Then what? The kids grow up, he's golfing and sick of you. Then what? You're just sitting at home, like wondering why you just wasted all these years. Like, do you?
Absolutely.
And if the guy comes, a partner, whatever it is, comes, great. And if it doesn't, you still are able to support yourself and are living the life you want to live.
You didn't put your life on pause
It's
in hopes
wild.
of.
Like, I realize now how much it had been put on me. Mm-hmm. It's like the guy, and one goes, you got to find another one. Like, what?
Yeah, it's crazy because like I think about it, and it's like I grew up with my mom who owned her own business, and I love the fact that she was self-sufficient. Like, she didn't need my dad. Yeah. So therefore, because she didn't need my dad, I always looked at it like, and my parents have an incredible marriage and things like that, but her not needing my dad to me meant that like, well, then she's choosing to be with him, right? And I think there's so many people who end up marrying somebody or dating somebody out of necessity, not just because they're in a great relationship or anything like that, but because if they don't have them, they have a world of problems, right? And I look at it and I'm like, my future wife someday, I want her to be so self-sufficient that she completely doesn't need me, but that I compliment her, you know? I hate when people say like, this person completes me. I'm like, I know. I don't want to complete you. You complete you. I compliment you. That's all I'm looking to do because you are you already great on your own. I don't want to be the missing puzzle piece. You are a completed puzzle. I am just, again, looking to compliment you. And then same thing myself. I continue every day to want to work on myself to be the best version of myself humanly possible because someday, again, when I'm married, I want to be the best partner that I can be. But again, I don't want her to complete me. I want her to compliment me because, again, I think that's like the most important thing because I think there's so many times that people tie up their own self-worth with the person that they are married to or dating or whatever. And then when that relationship falls apart, they're a broken human. And it's like, I think if you go into a relationship and you already look at yourself as like, I complete myself, I'm constantly growing, learning, developing, everything like that. But again, I complete myself, and I'm choosing to be with this person because I want to be and because I like being around them and everything like that. But I would also be good without them. I think those relationships are always the healthiest.
Totally.
And hard to find.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It sounds like Mark and I just like interview divorcees in our free time. But, whenever I'm around a divorced person, I always ask them, I'm like, do you, now that you've been divorced, do you still believe in the concept of marriage? Is that something you strive for?
It's so funny because again, I was divorced, I think legally divorced in 2007. That was a million years ago. So I truly forget, like, it's not even a piece of like who I am now. But even back then I was like, yeah, I would 100% get married again. But also for me, it doesn't have to be a piece of paper. I would like to commit to somebody, but it doesn't 100. If they really were like, it's important for us to get married, I'd be like, absolutely. But if they were okay with just, hey, it's the two of us, I'm fine too.
Okay. So I love that you said that, because my dream is to get engaged, but then never get married. And then if we are 60 or 70 years old and we look at each other one day on the couch and we're like, look, we've made it here. Like, why not have a party? Yeah. Why not make this official?
Right.
We have to have earned it though. Like, we had to have been through all the ups and downs, and nothing kept us there. Nothing, no legality aspect. Like, it was just us choosing to be together, which I understand that marriage is still a choice every day.
But it's a legal piece of paper that just makes things so annoying and complicated.
And like, what if they change? What if something happens? People develop mental health issues that you don't need to be a part of, you know, drug abuse, cheating, infidelity, all those sort of things.
Yes.
And you can't just exit.
No.
Then you have to bring people in, and it's so messy, and I feel like it's so much more traumatic than necessary.
100%.
And when I've told people that, I get a very 50-50 response of just like, oh, but like, you need to have a wedding. Like, you need to be a bride. And I'm like, I don't. I think it's a waste of money. I think the whole wedding industry is a sham. Like, I don't need to. And
we're watching and get increased. Like, they know.
Mm-hmm. The more expensive your wedding is, the more likely you are to get divorced. Yes. That whole statistic.
Oh, is that a thing?
It's a thing.
Oh.
It's because social media is telling us that now you have to have like
the balloon wall and like the flower arrangements.
And it has to be destination, and it has to be 300 people, and it has to be. And you have to have those 5 looks for one day. You know what I mean? Like, and it's like everyone's just trying to keep up, and it becomes this visual. It's not even about the
couple anymore
at all.
Mine will be a courthouse wedding or on a beach, just the two of us, our best friends, our parents. That's it. You know, if they're, God willing, they're still there. But, you know.
But I see it a lot.
I think the biggest thing, though, is what you guys are talking about is being on the same page with your partner of what your expectations are, right? And I think there's just a lot of people, again, that aren't on the same page and never even attempt to be on the same page, right? They're afraid of a conversation where they could figure out that they're on completely two different pages, right?
And I also think that a lot of people will go into a marriage with like, okay, I don't want to work. He's okay with me not working. I feel like there's a power dynamic there now. Like there are some couples that can do it and that it is a non-issue, but more often than not, I think because I even see it just dating now, dating my age and dating men that, you know, have money, and the first thing they want to do is like, that's what they lead with, money. And I was like, no, I'm good. I need you to be a decent human. So when you take that away, what do you have? So I think sometimes when you go into these marriages, you're giving a little bit of your power away.
Totally.
And I'm just not down.
I completely agree with this. I've had the finance aspect is a massive part of why I don't want to get married. One being I've had this conversation with a few married couples. I don't want a joint bank account. And I understand the concept of having one. I am not hating anyone that wants to do it, but I want my own autonomy when it comes to finances. And whatever you earn is yours. Whatever you decide to share with me, that is a decision from you. I don't want resentment to build around finances. I know that a lot of fights, divorces, everything are contributed to by finances. Whatever I inherit, you did not earn. My family earned.
It's
like
crazy.
There's so many things I want to keep separate, and marriage just happens to enmesh that.
And you're not looking to take his either.
I don't want anything that he's earned. Whatever you give me, you have decided that. I didn't earn that. I didn't, just because I have your last name now.
See, I would say I have a kind of a different take on that because I look at it of when I get married.
You're healthy though, Mark.
I know it's different.
Yeah, but your relationship now is healthy, right? So it's like
keep it separate.
But I look at it of like if I'm married to you, we are a team. So when I'm successful, that means you're successful. When you're successful, that means I'm successful. Like we are there to support each other and push each other and motivate each other and be there for each other and things like that. But like, and so I look at it of when I make an investment or whatever, that's also that investment that I make affects you, right? Like if I make an investment where potentially, let's say I'm putting $250,000 into something, right? If that investment goes bad, that could affect you. So therefore, in terms of like, if that affects my mental health, that affects you. If like, there's so many different aspects of where I think money can affect your partner. So therefore, to me, it's a mutual decision. If I'm going to make that investment, I also want you to be comfortable with what I'm doing because it could affect you if my decision doesn't go well, right? So I look at it in terms of if I'm married to you, my decisions affect you. So therefore, I want to make these decisions together. I'll explain my rationale, and vice versa. But I'm not going to pocket watch you. Like if you want to go and spend X amount of money on whatever, if you want to get your hair done, whatever. I think there are a lot of guys who don't understand the price of certain things, so they freak out over certain things. But to me, that all goes back to communication. If I think you have a spending problem, never mind the fact if we have a joint bank account or not. If I think you have a spending problem, meaning you spend beyond your means, I'm not attracted to you regardless. Like I don't.
Oh, you are just not factoring in like the ugliness of like ego. Like there's so many aspects of human beings that we just forget. Like if we're on the same page, if we're compatible, nothing's going to be a problem. And I think that like that's one of the best things that is about you. But I would think about things like, so if I were to make an investment, I worked really hard, I made that money, why do they get to reap the benefits? And then you're like, wait, but we're on the same team. There is that ugliness that creeps in, and then add a decade, add 2 decades in, all of a sudden you're like, well, they don't really work as hard as I do, but they're making more money than I do. Why did they get to do? It's like we forget that there's a competitive aspect of us that we all want to deny.
I'm not competitive.
But Mark, you don't know how you'll be in 20 years. It's wild.
Once you've been with your wife, you're annoyed.
That newness, like you haven't even met your wife, so you don't even have like the, you know what I mean? Like the newness starts to wear off,
and then she's home with kids maybe for a chunk of time, and
she
now
didn't clean the kitchen, and you just worked really hard. Why does she get to go get her hair done? Oh,
but I go back to
you can't check her on that.
I gotta clarify. Like I grew up with parents have a beautiful marriage. So it is, to me, I look at their marriage, and my grandparents had a beautiful marriage, and I look at my sister, my brother-in-law have a beautiful marriage. So I look at their marriages as goals. They all have joint bank accounts, and that's it. There are no separate. And so that
I had that too with my ex-husband.
Yeah, but
also I stopped working at some point.
Right, and see that never happened.
And I hated it.
That never happened in my sister's relationship, my parents, my grandparents, anything like that. So
I was so uncomfortable making a big purchase, and that's wild. Like I gave up everything to support. Now looking back, I was like, I gave up everything to support this human. And it wasn't glamorous, by the way. Like this was MLS in the late 90s, 2000s. Like we weren't like in mansions. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like I'm packing things up, moving us while he's just like like
he's getting stretched on the field.
Literally. It was work, but now looking on, I would never care now. Then I'd be like, I couldn't do it.
You feel guilty for spending,
Wild.
Even though your job is essentially being a wife.
I was yes.
But I go back to, I think it still goes back to me. If you have a great marriage, I don't think it matters. Like I really don't think it does.
You also value women a lot more than most men do. Well, and I think that's like,
but you're not trying to marry most men. You're trying to marry the one that you want to be with.
Yeah, but we're talking to the masses right now, and like not to stroke your ego, but there's one Marc Colcer.
No, but
truly, like.
But what I'm saying is, if you don't find the person that you can do all these things with, to me, it's just not. Then why get married? You know what I mean? Like a
lot of people would be alone.
You would think,
yeah, but like most people should be alone.
Yeah, this is. I mean, fairy tale
there's a reason why you're talking about like literally the divorce rate in the country is like 55%. I also ask people when I was doing photo shoots all the time, I would say to people that I'm shooting with, okay, are your parents divorced, not together still? What's the situation there? They would talk to me about it. Then I would go, okay, if your parents are still together, should they still be together, right? And honestly,
these girls just thinking they're going to take thirst traps. And they're like, should your parents be together?
No, because
so I'm not taking my top off.
No, the
daddy issues.
She starts crying. She starts crying. She's like, my parents shouldn't be together.
No, but honestly, it's like maybe 5% of people would say like my parents are in a great marriage. Like it was that low. But what I go back to is And that's where I started asking the question of like, okay, when I would shoot with people who were divorced, whatever, I would start asking the question of like, okay, when you guys were just dating, I'm not talking about when you were engaged, I'm not talking about when you were married, when you were just dating, was there a sign that eventually you guys weren't going to work out? Every single person has said yes to me.
Really?
Every single one of them. And because I think if you look back at the core root of it, of like when you guys were just dating, certain character traits that they had, certain personality traits that they had, certain ways that they talked to you, certain ways that you felt in that relationship, things like that. Almost every single one of them. I had a woman that I shot with that had been married for 25 years. She said 3 months into her relationship with him, she knew that there was something about him that eventually caused their divorce 30 years later, because they were dating, got engaged, got married, 25 years later, boom, divorced. And she said 3 months into the relationship. That's where I'm saying it's not like I look at it and I go, you have to be the harshest critic of your relationship and go, is it really, really that good? Or am I just being, am I being optimistic? Am I being whatever? Am I being blind to shit? Ask your friends. Hey, honestly, what do you think of my relationship? I will not be offended by what you say.
That opens up a whole thing that we need to get into, is the friend opinion.
Been there, done that.
But so curious. I have so many things I want to say. One of them being, do you think men have the same answer to that though? Because I couldn't see a man seeing issues month 3 and then staying for another 30. No. I think that's a female quality.
I think there are,
because we can fix it.
Well, there's some motherly instinct.
If we're just prettier, like maybe
I'll just work out more.
I think for sure women have the motherly instinct. So I think there is that, like, I guess the idea of like, I can change him in certain ways, but I look at it all the time and I'm like, why would you ever want to change somebody? Like if you are dating somebody and you're like, man, they'd be that much better if they were this, this, and this, if he just didn't have a drinking problem and wasn't an asshole when he drinks, you know what I mean? It's like, what are we talking about?
But so that's the other thing, like dating now after being married 10 years and like some really shitty relationships. These are things I look for, where before, if I was like, oh, maybe if I go on a few dates and I think maybe there's a little bit of a problem, I'm like, oh, I can figure that out. Now I'm like, bye. And I'm not going to talk to you about it. I'm not going to tell you about it. I don't know you well enough but old me I want to help you and fix you. And I feel like a bad person if I just bounce. Now I bounce so fast because I'm like, it's a you problem.
This is something we need to talk more about.
Right. That's why this is important.
The
right?
exiting faster thing.
Don't bring it into I've created such a peaceful, beautiful life. If you walk through that door, a rainbow better be shooting out of your asshole. Like, for real. That's the only way you're staying. Like, I don't want a headache. I'm not nothing. And that's why I'm single.
Well, no, so I'm running into a lot of frustrations. I was having coffee with one of my friends the other day, and we were talking about when it is appropriate to intervene in your friend's relationship, because we've all had it done to us. We've all wanted to do it to the other, and it's really, really tricky. But I'm seeing a trend with a lot of my friends in their late 20s, early 30s who don't want to exit a relationship because they're so scared of being alone, and they are putting up with breadcrumbs, like absolute pieces of shit.
Me, I did that for years. And
I just wonder, and I know that used to be me. And then I said enough. And then I only expected the best. And then I got the best. But then I wonder about them. I just want you to talk to my friends now.
I tell my clients all the time, I'm like, listen, because I have clients of babies to way older than me. And I tell the babies, I'm like, listen, the one thing I wish would change across the board is that we're harder on our friends, because like the big thing, like I was in a really horrific, toxic relationship for 5 years. And the one thing I heard is like, I knew you wouldn't see it until you saw it for yourself. Like we could tell you. Mm-hmm. And I was like, fucking tell me, beat it into me. Like, I wasted 5 years. I really wish people were like, you have to figure this out. This isn't good.
Oh, but on the flip side, that's so not it.
I know.
Like not it, but not common. I mean, he and I had our first and only fight.
Our biggest argument ever.
Yeah, and it was so sad. It's like our argument was us just like not really talking. But like our first like problem in our relationship was he had heard horrible things about the guy that I was starting to date. And he was a good friend, called me up and he was like, look, like this is not good. Like these are things that are not like, oh, he's just kind of a dick. Like these are horrible red flags. And I was so defensive of just like, you're telling me he's love bombing me. What you're telling me is no one could possibly love me because I'm not lovable and I'm not that special. So we don't actually hear that this person could just be a narcissist or a sociopath or whatever.
I know.
We just hear that
But
someone
how?
doesn't love us.
But that's what I keep saying. I'm like, how do we switch that the way, especially women, look at that?
Yeah.
Because I'm like, because I would have been so defensive, but I look at the amount of years I wasted in my poor friends. I'm like, I apologize to all of you.
So embarrassing.
For the hammering. You had to hear the same version of the same story for years.
Yeah.
But no one was like, get out, like it's done. It took a therapist being like losing her mind one day in couples therapy.
You got the therapist to snap? That is such an honor. Oh my God, I love that.
Not me, the narcissist ex got the therapist. And I was like,
She's
oh,
like, enough.
I finally was like, oh, he did it. I was wondering how long it was going to take him to get you to break.
She's like,
he
this motherfucker's crazy.
I was like,
oh, that's so beautiful
like,
when they reveal themselves.
I was like, congratulations, you broke her. You broke her.
Yeah.
She like lost her mind and she was like, if I were you, she turned to him and she was like,
kill him.
She was like, if I were you, I would get on your knees and beg this woman to stay with you. And she was like, and if I were you, I would run like you were on fire. And she was like, and I had jokingly.
Was she doing the finger pointing?
Chill.
She's
clapping. Yeah. She's clapping.
She was unhinged. And she was such a calm person.
Yeah.
And literally was like, a few appointments prior, I had said something to her on the lines of like, hey, quick question. Do you think I'm a saint? Because of whatever nonsense he was. And she goes, and remember that question you asked me? She's like, you are a fucking saint. Go.
Oh my God, I love her.
She ended up being my therapist after we broke up. And I was like, is this appropriate? Like, you know everything. And she, like, it was the best.
No, that is
thing.
appropriate. That's great.
It was amazing. Like, she changed the way my brain works.
I think therapists like that.
She's amazing.
And I think people have to change their mindset on what kind of friends you want around you.
Yes.
I had a friend of mine, mutual friend of ours, we're not going to say the name on the podcast, but I had a friend of mine that after some period of having the same conversation over and over and over again, her expressing the same issues with the same dude. And I said to her, I was like, listen, I got to be honest. I'm really tired of having this conversation. It's the same shit repackaged in a different way. Mm-hmm. So when you decide that you want better, you will stop fucking around with this guy and whatever. But he has shown you time and time again who he is. Believe him. Stop trying to change the narrative around it, whatever. I know you wish he was the right one for you. He's not. And you got to stop telling yourself that he is, because oh my God, I've heard the same story 50 fucking times.
But I would even be happy to have a friend say that to me. Be like,
well, I did.
I got to
That's born in kindness, though.
Didn't
Because
work.
I've had the situation where I've had a friend who made me like scared to come home or like scared to get a text from them, just type of
that we don't need that.
You know what I mean? Like where it was kind of like berating for dating that person. Then I've had the people that are like, look, like I'm seeing you disappear within yourself. That has been the most impactful comment that I have received from people, is that you are no longer you. And I'm not saying like you're a bad person, but like you have disappeared. Like you're not there anymore. That's all I needed to know that I needed to get out of a certain situation. So if you approach it with care and kindness, very receptive. But if you take it as like, which is like, even in hindsight, when I look back on that phone call, I remember where I was working out. I sat down on the ground. I was trying not to cry. He's calling me. He's like being like a good person. But Mark speaks passionately. And I confused his passion for anger and judgment. Yes. And I thought that he was judging me for believing that someone would even want any of those things with me so soon. When in reality, he's like, look, this guy has an MO. You got to run. Yes. You know?
Well, and again, I take it back to like, I want people to be bluntly honest with me on everything. If you listen to the if I send you a podcast episode and you're like, Mark, this episode is fucking trash, and here's why. I'm going to then try to understand the position that you're in and why you believe that. Maybe there's something where afterwards I go, oh, you know what? Actually, that's a great point.Maybe I disagree. But either way, I'd rather have you be honest with me rather than just sit there and tell me exactly what you think I want to hear. And I think that's the part that a lot of people have, is they have all these friends around them that are friends that just tell them exactly what they want to hear and not what they need to hear. Those are not real friends. Those are literally people that will not be in your life 20 years from now, because those are people that are just like, they're like foo-foo, fluffy bullshit friends. Like, they're not the real ones. You need the people that are not afraid to call you out on your shit. I mean, that's why, like, my sister's birthday was the other day, and like I said in my little birthday post about her, like, my sister calls me out on my bullshit, and I've always appreciated that, because she's not going to just let me do something and watch me make a mistake or whatever. If I do something that she doesn't agree with, she will call me out, and then out of my respect for her, I will understand where she's coming from, digest that information, not give an emotional reaction to it. I will digest it, then come back with my response to it, right? And so I just think in general, if you want to know truly how your friends feel about your relationships, your friendships, your work situations, whatever it is, create an environment where your friends feel comfortable to call you out on your bullshit. And if you're not doing that, that's on you. You can't emotionally overreact because your friend said something that you don't want to hear. You need the truth. You don't need fluffy bullshit.
Okay, do we think there's criteria for not complaining, but criticizing a significant other of your friend? Like, I feel like obviously abusive, manipulative, unfaithful.
But are we talking her coming to us and telling us, or us observing?
That's what's tricky, is like a combination of you're observing how he's treating her, and then also she's relaying things that have happened behind closed doors. When do you get to say something? Because it can't just be he's not making enough of an effort with us, he's too shy. It can't be those things, because that's a personality compatibility thing. So when do you step in?
I like to blame being from the East Coast for being so blunt and straightforward. I don't know where that's actually from. Or I'm in Aries. I'm from the East Coast and I have ADHD.
You didn't stand a chance.
You're going to hear the truth.
Yeah.
For me, it's once you've like come to me and like maybe said a few, like you're trying to sprinkle it in there. And then the first time I see it, I'm like verbal diarrhea.
God, that's such a good quality.
I just can't help. But like, I'm the asshole. I'm the person like, don't ask her unless you want to know, because don't ask me, because you have to tell me, like.
That's not an asshole. That's just being honest. You're like that too. Like if I ask you, you're going to tell me what you think.
Well, I'm not even going to, you don't even have to ask.
So
you don't even have to ask. I'm going to tell you regardless.
Mark's going to call you up.
Exactly.
Like, hey, can I get on the phone with you?
You got to delete that post. You're like, okay.
Yeah.
Noted.
You embarrass yourself.
I tell people all the time, like, you don't need to ask me I'm just going to tell you my thoughts. Like, if you like my thoughts, great. If you don't like my thoughts, like, I can't stand the fake bullshit relationships where people are afraid to be bluntly honest with people. Again, like, if you want that, you're just not going to get that from me. I'm going to tell you exactly how I feel, whether you ask for it or not, because I don't ever want to have a thought in the back of my head that I'm not telling you. And then later on I go, oh yeah, by the way, I wanted to say this to you, but I've always thought this. I just didn't want to say it to you. Yeah. It's like, no. The moment I have that thought, I'm going to tell you, and vice versa. If you see me fucking up, don't wait until I hit rock bottom to call me out.
Some people don't want to know.
Well, but that's on them.
That's the problem. Some people don't want to know.
Yeah, but like,
or they don't. They need it. Again, I'm not very like soft with my approach. So some people, I'm like, okay, how can you soften this up and say this? And then I'll try, and then next thing you know, I'm like, he's a piece of shit. Mm-hmm. It came out. You know what I mean? Like I'm like, so some people just need a softer approach, or are just in complete denial and would rather stay there.
I feel like people are loud with their words, and I'm very loud with my absence. If that makes sense. Like, I feel like my absence is my answer.
That's me.
I don't necessarily need to provide an explanation of why I'm not there anymore, what I feel about your actions. Because if I assess a situation and I think, okay, you're not willing to listen to me, you're not capable of change. I've seen enough. Once I've exited, it's because it's been so bad for so long. There is no keeping me there anymore. I don't need to tell you why I'm going. So I feel like me just not being in the picture, not being involved is all I need to say.
And it's great that like you're like this at your age, because it took me till now to realize that like I was so focused on like, oh, I'm going to remove myself from this toxic relationship or this or that, like men. And then you start to realize that also goes into friendships. And sometimes it something like this, it could be a relationship that you're not 100% in agreement with or whatever. And you just have to remove yourself, and that's okay.
Absolutely.
And I would never do that. I would stay. If you wanted me to be your friend, I'd be your friend regardless. That's wild. Now looking back, I'm like, everyone just has access to you.
Yeah, I'm not giving up my energy like that.
But I did for the longest time, and now I don't. And it's like...
Right.
That's the biggest thing my therapist, like, just badgers into me, not to cut you off, is your energy is more valuable than this.
Oh my God.
She just like hammers it into me. She's like, you just give it
It's
away.
so
You give it away like fucking Halloween candy. Like, you're just like, you want some? Like, okay, I'll make more.
I had a whole therapy appointment where $250 spent on having her explain to me why I don't have to stop and have a conversation with every human being.
Oh.
Like the stop and talk. And she's like, you just have to keep moving. You just have to say, good to see you. An entire 1 hour appointment of being like, the best thing she ever said to me is she's like, what? Someone's reaction to what you said is none of your business. Who cares? Move on. If they still wanted to talk to you and you didn't want to, that's a them problem, not a you problem. And I was like, oh. And I still have to practice it. I'll be like, oh, I don't want to talk this first. And I'm like, she's like, just never stop walking. Like that. She's like, just do that.
Mark, that's why I have Mark. Mark's like, Anna, the conversation has to be done now. Like, Anna, you have to shut up. We got to go.
Yeah, I mean.
He had to do that to me literally an hour ago.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things where, like, yeah, your energy is so damn important.
What
and
am I
like,
doing?
if somebody in your life is a train wreck, if there was an actual train wreck in front of you,
Such a good point.
Like, would you sit there and watch a train just go wreck? Like, obviously, you would stop because you'd be like, I don't want to keep witnessing that. You know what I mean? And so it's like,
true. I'd probably stay.
That's crazy.
I'd try to help it. I'd be like, okay, go to the left.
Yeah, like a little bit.
But
then you're like, this is terrible.
It's almost like when you're scrolling Twitter and you see some like graphic video. If you're sitting there watching the graphic video over on loop, it's going to affect you negatively. So if one of your friends' lives is a graphic video of just shit, and you keep that in your life, that's going to affect you. It's going to have a mental toll on you, everything like that. You have to protect your energy. And so same thing.
True.
That's a good analogy.
If your own relationships are, a train wreck or a graphic video, then you need to remove that situation from your life.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I know that's not easy. The biggest thing is like when people say this kind of stuff, it's like, well, but it's not that easy to remove certain people from your life or whatever. It's like, I get that, but the best things in life tend to be the hardest things. And a lot of times you have to do that. The easiest thing is to stay doing whatever you are doing today. But if you recognize that something is not right, you have to fix it. Otherwise, you're going to get to the point where you're 80 years old and you're looking back on your life and you're like, I wasted so much time on people that I shouldn't have. And if I had just called it out, if I had just made the hard decision of I'm going to remove this person from my life, it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be fun, but I have to do what's best for me. You're going to be 1,000 times better off.
It's so true. I used to, you could call me anytime, any day, and I would take friends' calls. Now, if you call me in the morning and I'm getting ready for work and you start complaining, that's a no for me. I was like, I am working so hard to start this day off and like have a good day, and having you calling me complaining about yours, like we all like, no, how did I become your sounding board for all this nonsense? Like, I will cut you off so quick. So like, I can't take on your shit.
100%.
We could be friends,
but I'm just not.
But we're not doing this like first thing in the morning before I even start my day. That I'm hearing your nonsense.
Right. It's the whole protecting your inner peace. Like, and again, I think so many people don't do that because they're afraid to be a disappointment to other people or whatever, or to like hurt them or whatever. How many times you hear of people who get mentally manipulated staying in a relationship because the person's like, well, if you leave me, like I'm gonna hurt myself, or I'm gonna be blah 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 blah, or whatever, and so they get manipulated into staying in that relationship. And it's like the reality of it is your inner peace is more important than any relationship in your life. So if somebody's negatively affecting your inner peace, remove that person as quickly as you can. Otherwise, you're going to be the person that ends up on the opposite end of that if you don't do that. Like, you have to remove that as quickly as you can because it's toxic as all hell. And again, if you had something toxic in your life, if you had toxic mold in your bedroom, you'd get that removed. So why are you not removing a toxic relationship?
Yeah, damn.
When you say it that way, it's like,
you're like, you see me, I'm like contemplating my whole life.
Anna and I need to text some people and let them know that we will no longer be talking
for a minute and just shoot off some
like, so this isn't working for me.
Like, for real.
It's true, though.
On a more positive note, young men or men your age, older men, what's your favorite?
Aesthetically?
Yeah, aesthetically, mentally, emotionally. Like, what do we like? Because my take on men is so different now.
Okay. So I always dated my age. And then there was a shift where guys my age, no offense, are the worst.
Yeah, they're not cutting it.
They're the worst. Like, I can't parent you. So with that being said, like, I'm just realizing guys my age, so let's say even 45 and up, or maybe closer to 50, there's a little bit of whether they come out and act like, they're evolved, they still have that like traditional, they need you, are you around? Are you available? We're going to do things my way. And I'm just like, no, we're not. No, we're not. And there's just, I don't know. I feel like and I was talking to my girlfriend the other day and we were talking about our parents, and my mom and dad are just like her mom and dad, where like her dad can be like, I'm hungry. I could really go for a sandwich. And her mom just gets up and goes to the kitchen and is like, what kind of sandwich? And I grew up the same way. And I see a lot of that in the guys I date that are my age, are expecting us to, like, am I just fucking this up?
No,
you're good. Just point it up.
Just now, you started fucking up.
Okay. There,
but not previously.
Here we go. And I see that a lot with the guys my age. They're like looking for me to take care of them. And I'm like, I'm not doing that. I was like, all of a sudden your hands have turned into flippers and they no longer function. And they always say, oh, but you're so good at it. Oh, I'm so good at making reservations. Oh, I'm so good at Google.
Mopping the floors.
Google?
Yeah. I hate the patronizing compliment.
You're so
good at. I love how you love how I make the bed.
I'm going to teach you how to make. So I started doing that. So whenever a guy's like, but you're so good at it, I was like, I'll teach you. I will teach you how to fucking do it. I won't do it for you. I will step by step walk you through how to be an adult with 2 functioning thumbs and a cell phone. Look. There you go.
I feel like you'd get so much more respect for that. Like, I would respect you more. I'd respect you more than how I do things.
They're like, it's a no for me, dog. They're like, I'm going to go.
God, I'm like their dream. What do you want?
And I'm like, good.
Yeah. I don't get why younger girls are dating older men.
Oh,
and
I can
for
barely
a variety of reasons. I feel like there's certain criteria, though. And I know I'm going to get a lot of hate for this, but I feel like if you are 50 and you haven't been married, red flag. 50, you just went through a divorce. I mean, statistically speaking, that's going to happen. You give it a chance.
Yes.
But there's then the women that are like, I don't want to be with someone that's been divorced. I would rather be with someone that's been divorced than never make that commitment.
And maybe she taught him something.
Absolutely.
Because I don't want to fix another one. Like, I'm done. I've retired. I'm no longer in that game. Like, you need to come to me like a full human, functioning adult in the world. And I don't want to teach you the things.
My boyfriend now is the first younger man I've ever dated. I've dated people my age, but by far the youngest person. And he's the type of person where I say I'm hungry and he's like, what do you want me to make? Whips me up the most beautiful meal. He takes care of me. And I feel like there's been a shift in how men treat women and the roles that they take. Like, he does the laundry, he helps clean.
Yes.
Like,
and it's not a question. It's just
100%. I feel like you're like that too. It's like you also have lived
I was going to say, I've lived alone since I was 23. So if I didn't do it, it wasn't getting done. So
it's going to throw you off when you finally live with somebody. You're going to be like, oh, no, but that's my chore.
Yeah, wait, no, I'm going to take out the trash. Oh, wait, no, what are you doing? Wait, you're doing the dishes? Wait, that's
my chore.
Yeah.
That's my chore.
I kind of like doing the dishes now. Oh, you're putting the sheets on the bed? Okay, well, underneath there's a little thing that says short bedside.
Yes,
and
I like that. But that's so for me, it's not that I don't want to do any of the things. I just want to know that if I'm doing the dishes, you're also going to do the dishes. Mm-hmm. That's it. Like, I don't want it to be assumed on account of my vagina that this is on me.
100%. The assumption that being taken for granted. I servitude all day long as it is also being given
no
back.
question, I'm down. But with that being said, I do notice when I date younger, like,
there's so much more respect.
It's like not even a conversation.
They listen to you.
Yes.
That's been the biggest thing. They listen and they ask you a question.
Yes.
You're like,
yes.
You want to know more?
I've gone on dates where I was like, wait, are you writing a book on me? Is there going to be a novel about me? How do you have so many questions?
They see you as like a tree of wisdom.
I'm used to getting talked at. I'm like, oh, okay.
They're mansplaining.
I know everything about this 55-year-old dude and everything he's ever done and his prostate and his car. I don't care. He knows nothing about me. So then these younger guys, I'm like,
yeah,
what part of the novel does this go into?
You're like mysterious. Like, I feel like older women are like an enigma. I feel
it's
like
so much nicer.
I could never see myself dating an older person ever again. Truly.
Well, because I also I'm just listening. I'm listening, taking notes.
Mark, you need to date an older woman.
Okay.
I cannot picture you with a younger woman. And I say that as a compliment. Just take note of that. You need to be with an older woman.
Okay. Yeah.
I know. I'm sorry. I had a glass of wine.
I think there's something about. There's a lot of dudes who like to date younger, and I've always thought that's weird. To me, it just doesn't make sense. Like, I look at it and I'm like, I really don't give a shit what somebody's age is. I want their emotional EQ level, to be at the point of where I want it to be. So whatever age that makes her, right? But the reality of it is like, she's not going to be 22 with that. Like, you don't have enough life experience at that point, right? So when a guy is like, I like girls who are younger or whatever, I'm like, brother, like, so you like somebody who doesn't bring bring a lot to the table because, again, it's nothing against a 22-year-old man or woman. They just don't have the life experience. So what are you truly getting out of that? Because you can't hold the same conversation with them. Again, they haven't seen enough in life. They still need more time. And so it's just the I think there's something weird about dudes who are like,
they want a malleable brain. I can't even speak. A malleable brain. You know what I'm trying to say.
well, and somebody who doesn't call them out on their shit. You know.
Exactly.
And that's a big part of it. Like if you go on a date with a guy who's 50 some years old and he says something you don't like, you're going to be like, fuck this. Like you might just leave you might leave the dinner table. Like have you ever left the dinner table during a date?
No, because I'm too busy being like, listen.
You're going to call him out on shit.
I am going to tell you a bunch of things before I go. And then I'm going to watch you delete my phone number because this is what I want to know.
I want to be a fly on the wall on any of your dates.
There's
get you on a
this
dating
bartender was like, will you do all your dates here? He thought he thought we were joking. This guy I went on a date with that I met on Hinge, 41. He was full-blown married. He was on a dating app, and he accidentally told me during the dinner that he had a wife by accident. He got drunk. He was tipsy, and he was like, oh, my what? And I was like, your what? And he's like, it's complicated.
Is it?
And I was like, what? And I'm like, the divorce? He's like, we're not divorced. And I was like, separated? He's like, we're not separated. And I was like, then what's complicated? And this is my biggest pet peeve. He's like, she's just a fucking bitch. Oh. So I was like, okay. So I'm gonna go, but I need to see you. So I work one-on-one with women, and I'm like, this guy is dying to get caught. He is dying to get divorced and get pushed out of this marriage. And I was like, all I need is his poor wife seeing any conversation with me, finding out that I do this and you can book an appointment. But my biggest fear is that, like, someone's wife booking an appointment with me to, like, tell me off or whatever. So I was like, I need you to go on your phone and delete me. And he, like, refused. And I was like, take out your phone. And he finally now mind you, the bartender's watching this whole thing.
I would be too. I'd be hypnotized.
He was like, so I was like, out. And I was like, delete my number. And he wouldn't. And I was like, show me. This creep. So all we had done is exchange phone numbers. So he didn't know my last name. He Googled my phone number. He had found a picture of me online in a bikini. And that was my photo.
I wouldn't delete your number either. So in a bathing suit, I'd be like, that's fair.
And I was fair. And I was like, oh my God. So my fear of, like, a wife, I was like, this is what you just did. Yeah. That's insane.
Is she a bitch, or are you just a compulsive cheater?
Then he was like, oh, since we had the kids. And I was like, the what?
Since we had the kids, she's really busy and doesn't pay attention to me anymore.
I was like, you want to hold the shovel while you throw yourself in this hole that you just dug? Like, what are you talking about? It's wild.
Yeah. See, this is what we have to deal with, Mark.
Is that the worst date you've been on, or what's the worst? No. I love this question.
I know. I love a first date.
I've had so many horrible first dates.
We don't even have to go for a first date. What's the worst date?
They're all first because I don't go on a second. What are you talking about?
Fair.
Like, I don't think a guy can really hide his true colors.
I agree. I agree.
Totally.
People say all the time, people don't show their true colors. I'm like, dude, they make it. Usually it's a red glaring sign. You're just like, but maybe on the other side of that, something nice.
Nothing.
Have you've never left a date because it was so bad?
No, I mean, no, because I'm usually like, so listen, I'm going to do you a solid and tell you why this is such a bad date.
Yeah.
Like, I had one guy, because I decided, I was like, oh, maybe I need a guy from the Midwest. That was like my thing. I was like, I'm going to find a guy from the Midwest. So I'm on Raya, meet a guy from Indiana. I was like, perfect. But he's here a lot for work. So I go out with this hillbilly. And, I was like, immediately, I was like, I was so wrong. It doesn't matter. And the way his brain worked, the crazy things he was saying to me about, like, women and how, my favorite, he said something on the lines of, like, what women need to know is that men would very much like to be the primary caretaker for their children, but we know that we will never be held on a pedestal the way a mother is. And I was like,
women do thankless work.
I was like, have you ever met a mom? They're like the forgotten. What are you talking about? And it was a lot of that. It was a lot of these, like, and I was like, okay, listen.
Men need to know.
I go, if I was still in the business of fixing men, I would take you on. You'd take me a year because you're out of state. I go, but I can't do it anymore. Like, I'm so tired. And he was like, so we're done? I was like, yeah, we're done.
He's like, so what I'm picking up on is
so
you're
he's
not
like
sleep
laughing. I'm laughing. I was just like, this is just a no. And he was like, understood, noted. And he was like such a good sport. But at the same time, I was like, and I go, never say that out loud to anybody. There's no one that's going to go over well with, any female.
I was like, except for a girl that's like 23. She's like,
yes.
That's so true. Like, I'll make you feel like you're number one.
I was dying. I was like, so I'm wrong about, like, I've tried everything. I was like, maybe it's like Midwest. Maybe it's just like out of state.
Midwest is the thing that women have been fed. I don't know what it is. They're like, you just need a good Midwestern
like,
boy. No, but it is.
Nothing wrong with the Midwest guys.
Corn fed. And I'm like, what does this even mean?
He was like hands down like the worst of all that I've ever gone out. What? The way he thought, and I was like, oh, this is terrible.
With that being said, my favorite ex was a guy from Iowa, just a really sweet, wholesome Midwestern guy. So I will say,
that's the thing.
Yeah.
Like, I've met great guys, so I'm just like, oh, maybe that's what I need. No, it wasn't.
Because I think when people talk about there's so many times that people will go, oh, well, dating is really hard in LA, or dating is really hard in Chicago or New York or whatever. And they'll name every big city. And I'm like, dude, give me a city or a town or a small little, speckle on a map that has 100% successful marriage rate, and I will move there. But that does not exist. No. It simply does not exist. Everywhere you go, there are different types of problems, right? And so, yes, in LA, there are certain dating problems that are LA specific, but there are certain dating problems that are super specific to Gary, Indiana, right? Or, Wilmington, North Carolina. I don't even know if that's
just trying to drop geography on us.
I think that's a place.
He's like, I know the capital to every state.
Well, like, when I said Wilmington, I was like, shit, I can't remember. Is that South or North Carolina? I think it's North. But, it's the reality of everywhere you go, there's different kind of dating problems. It's just the reality of if you are dating somebody, if you go on a few dates and you start making excuses for the person that you are with, stop it and run. Like, just what are you doing? Why are we making excuses for people?
I don't do that anymore. Like, I don't, like, that was me. Now it's, you could put a red flag, you could wrap me a red flag and I wouldn't know it. After therapy, like, sadly, it's the opposite. I can turn a beige flag into a red flag in 2 seconds. Like,
the rose-colored glasses.
You literally say, the guy will say one thing, and I was like, oh, got it. I was like, I just have to get through this dinner. Got it. Never see this guy again.
Okay, so what advice would you give somebody then who's, let's say, is still at the phase of the pre-therapy phase, right? And they're still kind of looking at everything with rose-colored glasses, and they're like, this person really is this great human, yada yada yada. What would you tell her?
I think one of the biggest things not mistakes, but things I never noticed. I always thought, because I'm confident and like, I don't need someone to tell me I'm pretty or smart or funny. Like, I know how I feel about myself. If a guy would kind of like neg me a little bit, I would be like, oh, whatever. He doesn't realize that I'm secure. Now, if we're on a date and you start like picking away at me, I'm like, to like, bring me, because like you meet me and all of a sudden you're like, oh, she's a little too comfortable, and I have to like, now you're not comfortable, and they start like doing the little things.
Give an example. What would that be?
Oh my God, I'm so sick of it.
It's what?
The little chipping away. Oh, can I give one?
Yes.
Sure. Okay.
Calling you, Anna.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry. Can I give one?
We're both like, we have 1,000.
Yes, because I have one that's prominent. I was Fitness Magazine, cover model, whatever, flown to another state. Brought my boyfriend, thought he would be a supporter, thought he would be like, a little safety blanket. Cause I was like, I'm going, meeting all these new people. My ankles are up on his lap. I'm like getting ready to go shoot this magazine. He's massaging my ankles. He looks down on them and he goes, and I go, what? And he goes, I don't want to tell you, it would hurt your feelings. And I said, what now? And he said, you kind of have cankles. And I said,
that is wild.
And then he said, see, this is why I can't tell you anything. You're so sensitive. Got mad at me for then being butthurt that he told me I had cankles before I have to be half naked for this cover shoot for a fitness magazine.
That is the perfect example.
Hated the attention, wasn't on him.
Yes.
Had to make me feel ugly.
Yes. That.
You want 100 more?
Literally. I went on a first date with this guy. I show up.
Oh, no.
This guy, rapid fire, like, thought he was like taking me out at the knees, like I just walked in and he was just like, oh no, I'm going to neutralize her. So first thing, we start chatting and I was like a few minutes late. So I was like, sorry, I'm late. My car's on 0. Like gas tank is on 0 as it is currently right now. And I was talking to the valet and he goes, oh, don't call me. And I was like, for what? And he goes, when you run out of gas. And I go, why would I call you? And he goes, oh, what do you miss? I don't need a man. And I was like, oh, no, I was just telling the valet the car's on 0, but I know that there's like a reserve tank. My dad owns an auto body. Like, that's it. And he was like, oh, well, you know, if it was within 10 miles of where I live. And I was like, oh, cool. How did you know I'm looking for a man that is willing to help me within 10 miles of his home, you asshole? So that's how we start. I had just gotten there. So now we sit down and I was like, what did you do today? And he's like, oh, I had to go to the dentist. And he goes, they told me I need Invisalign. And I said, okay, you have to really want it. And I go, because it sucks. And he goes, how do you know? And I go, because I had it. And he goes, but you have buck teeth. And I go, no, I don't. And he's
I'm about to throw the mic.
Oh, wait. He's like, yes, you do. And I was like, no, I don't. We're like sitting across each other. And he's like squinting, leaning in. And he's like, no, you do. And I'm like, okay. Mind you, I was like, if pick anything on my body to like bust
Give me his number.
It was wild. Like hammering me. I was like, I have chiclets like implanted in my face. Like, what are you talking
You
about?
have perfect teeth.
But I was just like, he's just like grasping at straws now. Like,
He felt so insecure.
and then he was like, you know, women like you. And I was like what? And he literally like gave me the nicest compliment. He's like, independent, don't need anything from anyone, have their own careers, have their own businesses. And I was like, a singular human being taking care of themselves. Proceed. And he was like, you know, what you do need to know is we don't need much from you, but we do need a little bit of attention. And I was like, but I just met you like 14 minutes ago. And he was like, yeah, but all week we've been texting and you're just so absent. And I was like, I also told you in the beginning what I do for a living and that my entire family thinks I'm dead for 9 hours a day. If you think if I have a 5-minute gap that I'm going to text you rather than eat, drink something, text a friend, like
Breathe.
who are you? Dude, I don't even know your last name at this point.
You have to be priority number 1 though. Like they always have to be.
It was the worst date I've ever been on. And guess who thought it was a great date and wanted to go on another date?
Oh my God. Oh.
That idiot. If you're wondering.
Mark.
That idiot.
Gender's tough.
No, that's why I say.
I know. I
gender's
apologize.
No, I say all the time. I'm like,
We
listen,
could be here all day.
I'm all for the different types of genders and whatnot because I'm like I want to be part of a different group because there's some dumbass men that I don't want to be affiliated with.
So embarrassing.
I mean, it's tough. It's tough. Some guys say some stupid ass shit that I'm just like, do you hear yourself? Like, and because here's the thing. Again, as anytime a guy says like, oh, and I see other men do this, blah, blah, other guys will go, oh, this dude's a white knight, right? Or like, you know, the video that I posted.
That's so true.
The video that I posted the other day on Instagram, somebody commented. It was a person with 0 followers, 0 posts, 0 following, and they go, this guy is obviously gay. And I was like, because I said
It's
like
wild.
respect women and have standards? Like, what? Like that makes me gay? Like, is that where the state of men is at? That like
No,
that
yeah.
me making
Yes.
that comment?
Yes.
And that's just where I'm like, dude, we have to demand so much better. But I demand that of my friends. I demand that of everybody. Like we have to start leveling up the people around us because it's sad. Like some of the shit that's out there, again, it's just sad at this
But
point.
I don't think guys do more often than not. They don't, especially my age. They're just like, oh, it's just how he is. And I'm like, a piece of shit.
They're going to call us man haters too. Like they're going to listen to this
Yes,
episode and be
yes.
like, oh, like these man haters, like they're this or that. And it's like, no, the reality is I love men. I love good men as I love good
Exactly.
women. There's just not a lot of you.
I was like, what do you want me to do? The guy told me I had buck teeth on the first date. Like,
So
why
I
would I?
cankles, do I? Yeah.
like-
Do I? I'm kidding.
Like, you suck.
There's gonna be somebody who listens to that and goes, well, why didn't you do a Invisalign again?
Yeah, get more. Get
Do
more.
it again.
Have
Do
you
you
tried
want
braces?
I was like, what?
Someone's going to zoom in on your picture and
Yeah.
be like,
Oh,
wow.
1000%.
Someone's going to Google.
Like, he's
Oh,
not
my
not
ankles.
wrong.
Yeah, if he shaved that bottom too.
Yeah, just I do have buck teeth, however. But I think it's part of...
You do not have buck teeth.
No, I do. It's part of my character.
The way
I
you
actually
just
like
did that,
It was hilarious.
the force of like,
No, I'm like Chloe goes to Disneyland. That like kid in the backseat that's like, I'm literally her.
You do not have buck teeth.
No, I technically do.
No, okay.
Wait, do you know who she's talking about, by the way?
The
You don't.
meme?
Well,
No,
yeah,
the meme.
girl,
The
yeah.
little girl who's in the
Yeah,
in the
look.
backseat of the car. Yeah,
Yeah,
I know that meme. That's a great meme. I saw a photo of her the other day of like what she looks like now. That
She's like
always
an adult.
It always throws me off when people from memes
I
become
know.
like real functioning adults.
They become humans.
Like they're
like,
humans.
I'm
You're
like, you
oh.
grew up the fuck.
Like, ew.
Yeah, but okay. So if let's say somebody's listening to this right now, they're 26 years old. Actually, you know what's up it a little bit. They're 30 years old. They're a little bit like they know who they are at this point. They're kind of they are their own person at this point. They're their life. They're self sufficient. The whole nine. What signs, I guess, if they go on a date or they're talking to a guy on a dating app, whatever, what are your check boxes that you want to check before you go on a date with somebody?
Okay. If we're on if it's a dating app thing and we matched and we're messaging and then I realized having a call of some sort actually is helpful, which I hate this stuff. I hate it. I'd rather just meet you and then be like, okay, I'm stuck in this 2-hour thing. But I've had a few times where they're like, oh, do you want to talk? And I'm like, thank God I talked to you. You're the worst. So I'm like, talk to them first. Like here, and my biggest red flag, if we've never met and we met on an app and we're having a call, if you somehow go sexual in the what? If you bring up your penis and you're 50, yeah, in my head,
Scared.
and you're overcome. Like, stop. First of all, and second of all, you don't know me. So and then my biggest fear is when that happens, I'm like, okay, so let's say I ignored that and just kind of brushed it off. And then when I meet you, what are you going to do? You're going to assume because I allowed that in the conversation, because I've had guys, I'm like, why are you touching me? How, on what? You looked at me and thought I wanted to be touched and you're still going. Like, to me, that's crazy. So when they're like sexual before they even know you or actually physically met you, don't do that.
That's crazy because I can't fathom doing that. Like it
any guy I've talked to before a date that's happened.
That's so
I was
nuts.
Say, I get
Period,
dick
end of
pics
story.
sent to me
Oh
before there's a conversation.
If you heard my Hinge prompt, my audio, it's about dick pics.
Do not send me that.
And guys are like, this is so funny. And I was like, you do this.
Do you guys think that we see them and we're like, we have got to get to know them?
I would love
I
that
have got
mushroom.
to know more.
I've never seen a mushroom like that before. Yes.
Tell me more.
I've never in my life sent somebody a dick pic. Not somebody I'm dating. Not like none of it ever. Because I'm just like, what? Like, why would you want that? It's just so weird to me, but I'm also not the type, I don't ask for, like, I'm not the guy that asks for nudes either, because I'm like, if I'm dating you or whatever, I'm going to see it anyway. So, like, why do I need to ask for it, whatever? And I just feel like there's some times where, like, certain people are just like, you're way too horny. Like, you need to relax.
Like, a girl will also do it. Like, she'll volunteer it. You don't have to ask.
Yes.
If she wants to do it, she's going to do it.
And if she wants to surprise me with a tip
Yes.
pic, I'm not going to complain, but, like,
But you know what?
I'm not
don't ask.
Yeah, I'm not going to ask. That's so weird to me.
Guys, it's unsolicited.
Yeah, which is so strange.
And it's like a surprise. Like on a Tuesday, you're like, oh.
What's
There
up?
it is.
What's
There's
up,
the
my
lint
dick?
from your
It's never
sweatpants
flattering.
covered in lint. Like, you didn't even try. I was
Oh,
like, also.
This is so bad. So I used to, when I would get the unsolicited ones, I would like make someone around me see them. So like
Yes.
if I was around my mom, if I was
Like,
around
you
a
gotta
friend,
see
I'm like,
this.
if I have to see it, you have to see it. Or my boyfriend. If I have to
Yes.
see it, you have to see it.
Yes.
And it's like the one that like haunts me, it's like
Jump
kind
scares.
of like an intrusive thought, is like wearing white Hanes socks. And it's from above. I've never met the person. And he like went to my college, but he sent it to me and it haunts me to this day. And I just remember my mom screaming and being like, this is what dating is now.
For me, it's this. Oh, you pulled your sweatpants open and took it.
Yeah, there it is. Bird's eye view. It's never
That's
good.
crazy. It's just this.
Mark, it's so scary.
It's crazy.
It is wild to
It's
me.
really scary out there.
Well, when I was answering Haley Grice's emails for a bit, like, so our friend Haley, she's like well-known model, whatever, and so I was answering her emails, helping out with some business, propositions and whatnot. I mean, like, I had no idea what to expect, and she was like, "By the way, you're gonna get dick pics," and I was like, "Oh, I'm sure it'll be like every once in a while." It was like 6 a day, and I was like, "What?" Like. It's just so crazy to me, and I can't wrap my brain around it. Like it breaks my brain. It just breaks my brain.
Can you imagine?
No.
What are the? Has anyone had success with it? And is that why they keep doing it? So why do you keep doing it?
Girls live in fear of having their nudes leaked, yet guys that have never met the person, they're like, You want more?
It's what you want to see my
You want
junk?
more? I'll get more.
If a guy sends you a dick pic and it's unsolicited or whatever, I fully support. Send that shit to his family. Search that guy, find his family,
I'm
send that
always
shit.
like, does your mom know you're disgusting?
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Like, if I would,
Is she proud
if
of
I
you?
did some screwed up shit like that, I would hope somebody would send it to my mom and be like, "This is what your son's doing. He's an idiot." You know what I mean?
Put that in writing.
Someone
Whoa.
did that to my ex's ex. Well, my ex's. It was horrific. He was a horrible human. He is a horrible human, but he had an ex-girlfriend write an email to his parents with all the shit that he did, and they just ignored it. So
Are you friends with that woman now?
I should be, but she did some crazy shit to me too. But I get why she did.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like now I understand being on the other side of it. But I'm like, sometimes it's your family and friends that are the enablers.
100%.
And you just like, it's easier to keep everything perfect on the outside and let the dumpster fire be in the backyard where no one can see it.
See,
No.
I fully support, like, if somebody did some heinous shit to you, like, let their whole family know, let their and keep doing it. Keep doing it. They start dating somebody new, let them know, like, until you get a formal apology,
that's
like,
bad karma. Like, I'm a big fan, like, maybe that's my absence being loud thing, but like, that is my biggest form of revenge is just moving on, and they're an
yeah, but then they're gonna do the same shit to somebody else. That's what I'm saying. It's
but I don't want to be the girl that's like sending emails of like.
So, and that's the thing. I always say, because people always ask me like, why didn't you warn the next girl? And I was like, she wouldn't listen. We're not ready to listen to the woman. Like, as women, I wish that girl had messaged me, and if she had messaged me early on and said to me the things that she knew in a kind way, it would have been very different. But the way she went about it was so chaotic and crazy that it brought all the attention to her being crazy, and he got a pass for everything because I was like, oh, she's insane. Yeah. Then later realized, and I would have loved to warn the next person, but there's no way she was going to listen.
yeah.
Like, why would
That's very
she?
true.
Especially when they're so charming.
I think sometimes, though, when you warn somebody about, like, hey, like, just so you know, heads up about X, Y, and Z, maybe it doesn't cause them to leave that person, whatever, but maybe just it's a little bit of, a little thought in the back of their head. Because when I tell people, when we had the conversation where we got into a little argument over this guy that she was dating, like, I didn't think she was going to go, you know what, Mark, you're right, and I'm going to end things with him right now. I didn't think that. But what I thought is, you know what?
Hopefully.
She's going to be pissed at me after this, I would assume. But it's going to be in the back of her head. And at some point, she's going to go, damn it, I see what he's saying. And what happened? Like 4 weeks later, she was like, damn it.
A few months.
I see what he's saying. And then she was like, by the way, I ended things. Not because of that conversation, but it was a little bit of a thought in the back of your head. Like,
Yeah.
I just think in general, we have to treat people the way we would like to be treated. If you know that I'm dating somebody who's, I don't know, done something crazy in the past or whatever, if I'm dating a girl and somebody's like, hey, by the way, she like burnt her ex-boyfriend's house down.
Or historically is doing crazy shit.
Yeah. Like, I would like to know.
Yeah.
I would like to know. Because I'm going to talk to her about it, and I'm going to need some context to why you burnt your ex's house
Was
down.
it fair or was it not?
Yeah. What did he do?
I had one ex that's like considered incredibly abusive, and I was always wondering like, okay, but am I asking for it? Like that sort of mentality. I Googled one of his exes, one that was like crazy, and oh my God, this was like winning the lottery. She had a blog. And her blog was like there was a relationships tab, and it was just blog post after blog post of like detailing all of the abuse that she had endured.
And where you were like, oh,
horrific, but I was like, names don't even need to be listed. This
Yep.
is all the stuff he does to me.
Yes.
And that basic confirmation bias, I was like, okay, I'm not alone. I'm not asking for it. It's not a me problem.
I know.
And that actually gave me the strength to finally be like almost ready to leave.
That.
But I needed to know that it wasn't just me.
Trust me, I know.
Yeah.
And now I know.
Yeah.
And there's no going back. But so now what I do is, if he comes up, I will be very honest with you. I'm not out there screaming it from rooftops, but I'm not hiding the truth anymore. Because why should I? Like, why should I be ashamed of someone else's behavior and what I got like sucked into? Where before I'd be like, oh, it's nothing. And I'm like, no. This person is not allowed to walk around and play it like, oh, it just didn't work out. I'm like, no. Mm-hmm. That's not what happened.
He doesn't deserve your protection.
Let's be exact. And I think the way, I'm not hating on men, but the way some men operate, like a person like that, like a narcissist or a narcissistic personality, is they thrive on knowing that our shame will keep us from saying anything.
So true.
So they can just do it again and again and again. And I no longer will play that way. I just don't care anymore.
100%.
Applause.
100%.
So like that's the big difference. And I think dating now, when I meet a guy that has those tendencies, we don't even get to date too, because they're like, oh, not her. We're not going to break her. So I'm useless to them.
You're going to help so many people with this episode.
They're not attracted to me anymore.
Yeah.
They're not attracted. Like I was like, if you're a narcissist, like you would literally be like, this idiot, this one, she will help me. She will fix me. She will nurture me. I can beat her down. Now I'm not that person anymore. So they're not even drawn to me.
Wow.
Well, so here's my question for you. I feel like there was one time I had a friend of mine who had been dating toxic guy after toxic guy after toxic guy. And there was one guy who was continually toxic, and she stayed with him, and they'd break up and they'd get back together. They'd break up and they'd get back together. And at one point she said to me, and it was the craziest thing she said to me, she goes, I'm just tired of getting to know new people. And I was like, so instead you're going to deal with his shit. And I think part of it was that she was now into her 30s, and I think she was worried about, am I going to find my person? And so instead of her saying, I'm okay with staying single and whatever, and like if I don't find my person, I don't find my person, I think she was so panicked to find her person that she ended up staying with somebody who treated her like absolute shit. So now for you, being 50 years old, right? I think there's so much pressure of somebody in their 30s, whatever, to just get married, to just like, hey, whatever you're dealing with, whatever his negative attributes are, just deal with it, get married, because time is running out, the clock is ticking, you got to get married, right? Mm-hmm. So what do you think about, I guess, or what is your advice to somebody who's worried about the traditional, I guess, like a schedule that life has for people? What are your thoughts on that? And do you have any words of advice, I guess, you'd give somebody who may be like worried they're up against the clock of life?
I was 100% guilty of what you just said. I'd stay in that relationship and I was like, oh, but then I literally, while I was dating this loser, I would re-download an app and be like, oh, it's a dumpster fire out there. I should stay with this person. To me, when someone says that to me now, they're like, well, what else is out there? And I'm like, you're out there. You're fucking amazing. He should be so lucky to get to walk beside you. And why? But therapy had to teach me that. But so now I wish I hadn't wasted all those years staying in relationships with someone solely because, what's the alternative? The alternative is me, not another guy. And finally, this time, honestly, the best thing that could have happened is the breakup happened before COVID. And COVID, we were locked in, because what I would have done is my usual, found someone else. No matter good or bad, I would have gotten into another cycle, and I couldn't. And it made me sit in this and figure out and understand myself. And finally I was like, oh, wait a minute. You should be so lucky. And now I won't just give it away that easily. And I feel like I do see, and I'll talk to clients about this all day long. They'll be like, but what else is out there? And I was like, who cares? But free yourself up from this chaos and this toxic relationship. Enjoy your life, work on you, work on whatever it is that's important to you. And if that's what you want to be in a relationship, you will find the person, but you'll be good regardless. Like now I feel like if my next relationship, even if it didn't work out, I'm going to be okay, because I love my life the way it is, that this is just an added bonus, having someone amazing come in. That's it.
100%. The complimentary.
But it doesn't have to be like, okay, listen, if I wanted to be married with kids, I would have done it. Right? Like, so you can choose that, but that I realize now, I'm like, no, it doesn't have to, this traditional formula isn't for everyone. And like for me, for instance, like I said earlier, with working, I always wanted a career, and he was like, yeah. At the end of the day, he wanted the traditional, wife that stays home with the kids, and he wanted to go to work. I didn't want that. Like I always knew I didn't want that, but I succumbed to the norm, where the norm has been shoved down our throat for so long. It's like, okay, like, why is it like we look at a single woman as like, oh, I feel bad for her. And I used to feel that way. And now when I see a single woman, I'm like, lucky, You're not depending on anyone for your financial, support. You put a roof over your head. You have you're doing you. But we have looked at it as so sad for so long, and it's wild. Now I leave the party and I'm like, peace. I'm going to go smoke some weed and order a pizza. You guys can fight. Like, this is so great.
I'm just like, we're like, fuck, I love
It's
this person.
wild. It's just so, and it's like
Yeah.
not rocket science. And it's not just me being like, oh, because like if I wanted to be married or dating someone, I could be. But no.
We just punish ourselves when we don't need to be. Like we want to tell ourselves that we're failing when we're not. Like we're failing
It's
according to who
wild.
and according to what.
And people are like, oh, you'll find someone. And I was like, stop saying that.
So insulting.
And I was like, yeah. I'm like, also, I could steal your husband. Dummy. I could steal your husband because it's that easy. I don't want that, though. I don't want that. I want like what's right for me. And what's right for me may not be right for you or you. But that's okay. Like, I don't know why we have this like formula of what how it's supposed to be. And like, oh, if you don't want kids, what's wrong with you for not wanting kids?
Right.
I'm like, nothing. I don't want to watch my 20-year-old daughter have to date an alien or whatever it is, like by the time we have kids. Like, I don't want to do that.
Same.
So, but you do you. You want to have kids and knock yourself out.
Yeah.
I think people have to start asking themselves the question of just, am I happy? Because I think there's so many times that people have this like,
No one's happy.
right, and it's like society has
Not anymore.
It's wild.
Apparently.
right, and it's like, and it's crazy because again, it's like everybody puts these societal pressures on themselves of like based off society standards, I have to do X, Y, and Z with my life, right? And so what they do is they do that. They do whatever society says you should do with your life, right? And they never stop to ask themselves, am I actually happy?
It's insane.
And if you're not happy, like, what is the point of any of this, right? And so it's so crazy to me because there's so many times I'll just go on, you go on Facebook, you go on Instagram, whatever, you see different people's photos, whatever, and I always ask myself the question of like, is that person truly happy? And I wonder because it's like you'll never know from an Instagram photo or whatever. Maybe they are, maybe they're not. Who knows? You'll never know from a photo. There's so much more to the story and everything like that. But again, it's like the only thing that matters is, are you happy? Because again, if you go by society tells me that I should be married by 27, I should have kids by 29, I should be, I should have a beautiful home with a white picket fence by 30, I should be, retired by 60, I should be, blah, 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 blah. Like society can tell you X, Y, and Z. But again, are you happy? Because the only thing that matters at the end of the day is, are you happy? Because again, if you do all those different things, if you check all the boxes of society standards, and then you look at your life and you're like, I'm not happy, well then was any of it worth it?
But we get sucked into these boxes
100%.
because we're like, oh, we have to fit in. And that's what I'm starting to realize. I'm like, as you just get older, and like I said, I'll say it till the end of time, like therapy just changed everything. I'm like, no, I'm good. But everything you just said, I was that person up until recently, like up until a few years ago. I really thought like that's how you measure success, is based on the traditional formula of like, oh, you didn't have kids, you're divorced. When I forget I was married, you guys, and people will be like, have you recovered? And I was like, from what? I was like, but literally,
Yeah.
It's wild. Like, I never changed my name legally back to my maiden name. So, but it's like, to me, it's just the name on my license. When people, if I'm dating someone or a new friend, they're like, you were married? And I was like, oh yeah, it's so long ago that it's not even something I talk about or bring up because it's not my current life. But it's such a big stigma to, oh, what happened? And I was like, I got married as a child. That's what happened. And thank God in our early 30s, we realized no. And we're able to move on. Thank God.
Yeah. It's a blessing.
You've mentioned a few times your therapist. Was there anything that like your therapist really said to you that like what was the thing that made you go, oh wow, like this? Was there like a certain light bulb moment? Was there a question she asked you, anything like that was really like a true light bulb moment?
I think it was reaching out to her after my breakup, and she was our couples therapist. And like when she finally was like, yes, absolutely, we can work together. And the first thing I asked her, I was like, so how many times did you want to like strangle me in our sessions because I wasn't getting it? She's like, almost every time. And I was like, because when I was in it, even in therapy with her, I was like, I'm just going to help this person. Like the desperation to like, I can do something. And then realizing it's A, not my job to fix you. B, like it's not you, your illness, sickness, whatever it is going on. I can't allow that to bring me down. So I would say to her things like, well, if he had cancer, I wouldn't leave. And she's like, he doesn't have cancer, Lisa. It's not cancer. He's a piece of shit. And I was like, oh my God. And it really took that. She's like, we're not talking about cancer. Wake up. And I finally had said to her, like when I started seeing her by myself, I said, sometimes I'm going to need you to give me the answers because clearly, and she was like, so I would say to her sometimes, like, I'm going to need the answer on this one. And she's like, it's not cancer. And I'd be like, noted.
They wait for you to get there. And I was like, no. Let's
there
just
were
cut
some
that time.
days
Let's
I
not
was
waste
like,
sessions.
because I would have these epiphanies and I would realize it would take me like 2 weeks from the moment she said the thing. And I'd be in the shower 2 weeks later and I'd be like, damn it. So I was like, okay, this is working, but I need to fast forward this because now I became, I was so obsessed with the relationship in him, I became so obsessed with healing myself. Like I took it on as a job and that's when everything changed. When I really took it seriously and was like, okay, why am I doing these things? Why would I allow anyone to take these things from me? And once I started working on that, I was like, oh, forget it. Everyone watch out because I got something to say. Like, I got things to say, you guys.
Damn.
But it was the best thing. Like I was so also 10 years ago, if you said therapy to me, I'd be like, okay, that's for people with problems.
Everybody needs therapy.
Now,
every single person.
I think you're insane if you haven't gone to therapy.
It's like, to me, a red flag if you haven't.
I was very resistant. And then one of my girlfriends was like, I don't get it. It is like a gossip session about yourself. She's like, it's the best. And the way she phrased it, I was like, okay, I'll try.
And you get to just improve.
Yes.
Like you just get better. You don't get worse.
No.
It's the best.
And especially when you like meet the right person, forget it.
Well, because I think it gets you to open up in ways that like society doesn't traditionally allow for.
Mm-hmm.
You know, again, I go back to, I think there's so many friendships that have no depth to them. So the people that you're talking to on a regular basis and whatnot, you don't get deep with them. My favorite type of people are people I can get deep with. And I will just voluntarily try with everybody and just kind of see where we're at with things, right? Like I remember last year, there was a time a guy called me and he was talking to me about some work stuff. And he was like, hey man, how's your day going? And I was like, can I be real with you? He's like, yeah. I was like, terrible. I was like, I'm having a bad day. I'm having an awful day. And he was like, do you want to talk about it? And I was like, yeah, I would love to talk about it. And we sat on the phone for an hour and a half and we ended up getting into some incredibly deep shit.
Yeah,
he was talking to me about some stuff he had gone through. I was talking to him about some stuff that I had gone through. We had never met in person. That's the crazy part.
And
that's not,
men
we don't ever hear this.
Well, and it led to this. Now we have this incredible friendship. We've met in person and everything like that, and we have this deep friendship now. And I think it's because we were able to get to that level. And so I look at it now, and it's like, you know, maybe that person had, if things had gone differently, and I had said to him, hey man, like, yeah, I would love to talk about it, and he was just like, oh, okay. And then he was like, in his mind, he was like, fuck, I don't want to talk about this. If that's the case, that's the case. But like, I'd rather try and see, can
100%.
we have the depth to this friendship where we can get to that level? And then if we can't, okay, cool. I know there's a limited level to this friendship, right? Mm-hmm. But it's just so important not to bottle things up. And that if there's one thing I've learned in life, it's don't bottle things up. You have to talk about it. And you're not always looking for a reaction from people. Sometimes you don't even want their advice. Sometimes you just need to vent and you just need to get shit off your chest. And we do that for each other often. And it's one of the best things about our friendship is that I can call up Anna anytime and say, hey, here's what I'm going through. Here's what I'm experiencing in this moment, whatever. And sometimes she'll give me advice. Sometimes she just lets me vent. And it's like, we just need to find our people in life that we can talk openly with. And when you have that, that's the best kind of people that you can have around you, because anybody where you feel like you need to dull your voice or be quiet or whatever, those are not the people that you need in your life. You need the people in your life where you feel comfortable to talk to them about anything that you're experiencing in that moment. Because again, that's how you end up becoming the best version of yourself, is when you're not bottling shit up and when you're just able to express openly how you feel, and you're not in fear of getting judged or anything like that. You're just openly talking about, hey, this is what I'm going through. This is what I'm feeling. And if you create that environment, most likely they're going to do the same for you. And that's a friendship that'll last a lifetime. The others, you know, you're not going to be friends with those people for long.
That's how I doing what I do. I don't know what it is about. Like, I'll have a client come in, perfect stranger, never met. once we have our conversation and they lie down and those eyes shut, the things they tell me, but it's also like therapeutic for me because then I can open up. I have these friendships with these clients that are so incredible. Like, yes, we see each other once a month and they're paying me to do their lashes, brows, whatever. But there's truly like they'll sit up and be like, I am so sorry for telling you all that. And I was like, no, thank you. Like, it made me realize things about me. It's really crazy to have this like experience like day in and day out. Because I can do 5, tomorrow I have 6 clients. I promise you that I will have 6 conversations that will blow my mind. And it's so cool to see how women are like evolving, or if I'm talking to a young girl and like she's telling me her experience dating or something and I'll tell her something, and to see even like a glimmer of like hope and be like, oh, okay, I'm going to be okay.
Parallels too.
That's the other thing, to see, a 27, like I always tell my clients, I'm like, listen, just so you know, you're 27, you're going to be dealing with friendship drama at 50. You're going to be dealing with dating drama. Like I go, it never ends. It just evolves. I'm like, this isn't a because you're young thing. This is a because you're human thing. And it's crazy.
Well, you're like the most interesting person ever.
Oh my God, thanks.
I have loved getting to know you.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, we gotta do this. We gotta do this much more often. I feel like we could probably go on for like 5 hours.
5 hours. When you said that you have 6 clients tomorrow, I got sad because I'm like, so she can't get lunch with us?
And I have to pack for Vegas.
No, just get lunch with us instead.
So annoying.
Yeah, cancel all those.
Cancel all those.
That's the
things.
other thing with friends. Everyone's like, do you want to go to lunch? I was like,
how?
Where? In the bathroom? Like that bathroom on peeing?
We'll come sit next to the people when you're doing their lashes and just talk.
So funny. There's a couch, guys.
Yeah.
There's
While you're working, we'll feed you a sandwich.
There's a couch.
Open up.
Lisa, take a bite.
Yeah.
I do that with snacks behind them. I'm like, you guys talk. Literally, it's so funny.
So, okay, I feel like we should wrap this up with like, if you could give one piece of advice to everybody that's listening, if there's something, and I know we've talked about a lot of this already, but like if there's just one singular piece of advice that you could give to your 25-year-old self outside of, it could be anything. It could be involving relationships, inner self, anything like that. There's one piece of advice you'd give your 25-year-old self.
Focus on yourself, be selfish, and work on yourself, like period. Like once you're good, everything else is going to fall into place. But do not, in your 20s, give up anything for anyone else. Like keep doing you, and everything else, the husband, boyfriend, whatever, friends, everything will fall into place, but never put yourself okay, let's put it this way. Don't be in the shadow. There's no reason to be in the shadow. Like you should be your number one priority, period.
If I could drop the mic, I'd drop the mic.
I know, I was going to say, just throw it.
That's it though, but it's it. Like no one else, just you.
You're a star.
You're so nice. Thank you.
No, I'm not nice. I'm honest.
Yeah, Lisa told me she wants to start her own podcast, and I was like,
you should.
It's called On the Table.
You're going to put us out of business, but
you don't even understand the things. Like I'll be like, either we're dying laughing, like crying, and I can't even get anything to work because we're laughing so hard, or I'm like sobbing and trying to like not. Like I'm like, I'm okay.
I'm going to drip on you.
And they're like, I'm so sorry to make you cry. And I was like, why would you do that?
No, you should have a show. You're a star.
Yeah, she'll put us out of business like the first 2 seconds. But, selfishly, I'm like, Lisa, no, don't start your own podcast.
No, focus on your business.
No, just come on our podcast every other week.
Yeah. Or every week.
Yeah, every week. Every episode, yeah. No, this was awesome.
You're amazing.
Yeah.
I love doing this, you guys.
Yeah, we gotta do this more often.
Let's talk about menopause next time because I'm pissed.
Oh, I'm curious. So next time, let's talk about that.
I'm pissed.
Yeah, same.
Mark is curious. He's been telling me about this. He's a lot of questions.
I don't know if I've ever told you this, Anna, but I told Lisa this. I was like, she brought up menopause on a phone call we had, and I said to her, I was like, when I was like 12 or 13, I said to my mom, I was like, so when do I start going to the gynecologist?
Oh, Mark.
Like your insides will never dry out. Good for you.
Yeah, and she
so
was
lucky.
like, yeah,
Lucky.
listen, son. You're an idiot.
They're there.
Yeah. Let me explain what a gynecologist is. Yeah.
That's a great way to end the episode.
Yeah, there it is.
Men being stupid. No,
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
The end.
Yeah,
That
so I'm
was
still
so
waiting.
fun.
When is that appointment? Anywho, this was awesome.
That was so fun.
I loved
it.
it.
Yeah, well,
We'll do it again.
100%. So, you guys got to go follow Lisa after this. So all of her social handles and everything will be tagged below. You got to give Lisa a follow because she's got far more where this comes from. This is just an hour and 40-minute conversation.
The appetizer.
But yeah, there's a ton more. Can't wait for you to drop your own podcast. You got to do that.
Right.
We're going to make that happen. We're going to get this. We'll get the setup going for you.
I'll be hated by men all over the world.
Yeah. It
or
is what it is.
respected, whatever.
100%.
Well, thanks for listening, everybody.
Yeah, appreciate you guys tuning in. And yes, we will have Lisa on very soon. Okay, we can just answer that question.
Your question. Yes,
there
she's going to be back.
There we
you
go.
Guys, my ego is like,
no, you deserve.
Yeah, we're here to pet your ego. It's deserved. So
loves it.
Yeah. So we'll wrap this up. Appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to you guys soon. See you guys.
Bye.